Hey there, YouTube. Looks like we're live. We should be live. And thanks for tuning in to this stream, whether you saw it live or more likely in syndication, since we currently have, ding, 0 viewers. So we're going to talk briefly about space weather. We also want to know if you'd like us to create another live stream this morning, pretty shortly after this video, because I've got an idea for a reaction video. We're looking to gain some fuel on certain content creators that we may or may not like on YouTube, and that should be interesting because people like the reaction videos. So they're very popular on YouTube, and because this way you can easily tell people what's accurate and what's inaccurate on, say, a video about, I don't know, space weather, cosmology, geophysics, subjects like that. Subjects that are real popular on YouTube that the average civilian noob doesn't really know anything about. But they'll conjecture about it endlessly, and they'll listen to endless conjecture about it without sort of any pushback. Just like you get a confident sounding dude on YouTube, and it's like, he sounds credible. I don't have to verify anything that he says, even if he's trying to sell me a bunch of nonsense posted in his description for his video. So anyway, let's talk space weather here briefly. Windows is telling me Windows didn't load correctly. So I won't rant about the state of software like I did yesterday, because it's pretty futile. You may have given up on software as well at this point, and if so, we don't blame you, because it's nightmarish. Now this PC is running Windows 10, but again, I'm not going to rant about software today. So had a bunch of power outages here in Lehigh Valley, PA today. It's like pushing 60 degrees out there. So it was like a deep freeze winter for a solid 2 weeks pretty much. And now we got these spring vibes. All the snow's going to be gone. And if we get no additional snow between now and Christmas, we ain't getting no white Christmas. It's already very green out there. So that's nice. I mean, warm temperatures. I had a nice long walk this morning, and it was glorious. I tell you, glorious indeed. So, all right, Windows has decided to allow me to gain access to my own device, which is always, it's always a plus when you're using the device to obtain the data about which you're going to comment. So, since I'm wearing the shirt, let's briefly talk about Batman. Bruce, if you're watching from Brazil, this one is dedicated to you there, bud. Bruce Minas. And I'm going to give you one rule of Batman. Maybe every day I'll give you one rule of Batman. Today's is not going to be about martial arts, although Batman is one of the most skilled martial artists in all of comic books. So if you want to get in a kung fu battle, Batman and Bruce Wayne are not really the dudes. Although Bruce Wayne would probably let you take him in a street fight so that he doesn't, reveal himself as Batman. So I'm going to give you one rule today on Batman. And the rule is as follows. It's very simple. Similar to Fight Club. The first rule of Batman is don't tell people on the internet that you're Batman. If they figure it out on your own, wink and say, Batman doesn't exist. What are you talking about? That's not a thing. Are you Tony Stark in RL? Let us know in the comments. Okay. So yeah, I mean, it looks like Windows is going to allow me access to my own hardware, but nothing is assured in this world. Whether it's the value of your dollars, the value of the NASDAQ and Dow Jones Industrial Averages, nothing is for sure, folks. Don't count your digits until they're actually in your bank account. And then you may want to cash them in for commodities like right away anyway, because the economy is up bad. If you think the economy is doing well, congratulations on your candidate getting into office again. Because these are the only people who think the economy is doing well. I think some of them really believe this, and other ones are just trying to cope. Trying to cope, and it's not coping very well. The stock market is a gigantic bubble of AI trash and phony claims about AI utopias and fully self-crashing cars and all kinds of stuff that are pipe dreams. You know, you're going to have a robot butler. You're going to get a robot butler for Christmas 2025, and it's going to change your oil in your car, change out your air filter, it's going to wipe your ass, it's going to cook your breakfast. I mean, it's going to be a utopia, folks. They're all going to be so affordable. And in the meantime, the pioneers in AI, they'll be able to make an app for a smartphone that's bug free, right? Right? They're going to make a bug free smartphone app, aren't they? Right? Wait, there are no bug free smartphone apps? Did I hear it in the comments? How could it be? Speaking of bug free OSs, uh, it takes like 10 minutes for Windows to load. So like the computer boots and then Windows sits there and says, "Welcome." For like, I mean, how long's it been? This stream is already 7 minutes long. So if you are running Windows 10, fair warning, Windows has stopped providing support on it, and yet Windows updates all the time. So figure that one out. I don't know. Maybe they change their policy on it. If you know anything about Windows 10 support by Microsoft, let us know in the comments. I have two monitors, and one of them turned on. Isn't that great? Yay! I don't know. I don't know what the f is wrong with it. Is my one monitor dead or what? Oh, there it goes. It turned on. It just required me to press the button 4 times. That makes a lot of sense, doesn't it? Anyway, let's get into space weather data here. Hopefully it won't be another hour before my browser loads up. But space weather's been pretty calm, and pardon my voice, it's it's been shattered. It just gets lower and lower. So it might sound okay to you, but it's very scratchy, and it usually has a lot less character, less timbre. It's usually a smoother sine wave. Oh, yes. It's fun. It's fun. The economy, all the deadbeats in the world, you know, like my former employer who owes me $3,000, you know, stuff like that. Deadbeats, people who rip off pro athletes, have services rendered and then decide they only want to pay for half of them. Deadbeats, people who scam the government and don't pay their taxes, and hence you run into problems on your unemployment claim because the company you work for doesn't know how to do accounting and they provide consulting services for accountants. Yeah. Yeah. You can see our community posts. You'll see details about it if you like. youtube.com/smashomash/community. It's fun. Deadbeats are so fun that I've made a song for our brand new band, Simulcome, called Deadbeat World Earth. Anyway, here's a more interesting world. The sun. Let's turn these lights off. Because there's glare. There we go. So here's the GOES 19 SUVI, 304 angstroms ionized helium wavelength, and that is refreshing. It pulls me out of all of the nonsense of everyday life. Yeah, science, it can be escapism too. Is your job a safe place from the pathetic realities of the rest of life? Oh, that's fun, right? Isn't it awesome when you get to work and you're like, ah, this is the place where I'm in control of my own fate? Isn't that fun? Yeah, that's fun. So yeah, that's what's going on with the sun. It's pretty calm out there. We still do have cosmic ray flux at a 20-year low. If you're wondering, if anybody's telling you energy from space is increasing, um, what you mean because it's before 12 noon where they're located? And infrared light from the sun's increasing because beyond that, energy from space ain't increasing, bitches. Deal with it. That's just Cygnus X3. I'm not even going to comment on the only known cosmic ray point source. I just don't care to talk about it. Let's take a look at the latest Huxt animation. Do we have any CMEs headed toward Earth? Has the Scott McIntosh filament ejected and headed Earth's direction? I don't think so. It looks like there ain't no new space weather on the way, and the current coronal hole high-speed stream, if it's even still going on, will be waning rapidly. Sunspot number has dipped, and there it is, down to below 50 sunspots. So if you're frightened of low sunspots, folks, if you think the sun is spookily shutting down for some reason, like, oh, I don't know, because you don't understand heliophysics, then definitely get in your bunker today, because sunspot number is now all the way down to like 47 sunspots. If you're scared of sub 100 sunspots, today is the day to get into the bunker, folks. Get in the bunker as quickly as possible. There's nothing scary about low sunspot numbers, even around solar maximum. Now that I got that out of my system, because I see nonsense on YouTube about low sunspot number, high sunspot number, medium sunspot number, 0 sunspots, 300 sunspots. People are spooked about each thing because they don't understand any of the things. 10.7 centimeter radial flux is currently at 117 solar flux units. This is a proportional data set to sunspot number. When we have a high sunspot number, we have a high radial flux. And when you have a really active sunspot, you have an even higher radial flux. So this is a little bit sort of a more, this might even be a better measurement of solar activity than the sunspot number. Sunspot number can be very deceptive. You can have 300 sunspots on the other side of the sun and 0 on this side of the sun. And that doesn't mean the sun is shutting down. We only count sunspots that are visible from Earth. Here's our coronagraph. It's not going to show anything too exciting, but it does show Venus, which I like. It's my second favorite planet, although it's pretty hard keeping Earth as my favorite planet at this point, because the number of idiots on Earth is at an all-time high. Have we ever had more idiots and cultists on the planet than today? Certainly not. Certainly not. Cult membership and stupidity to available knowledge ratio is definitely at the highest it's ever been. That's the moon, if you're wondering. If you think it's a spooky spaceship because you watch Mr. MBB333, who takes a photograph of a sunset and says, "This is crazy. The sky is colored. This is happening more often." No, it's not. Sunsets and sunrises, they happen twice a day everywhere on the whole fucking planet except at the poles during wintertime. Next. Here's where our planets are located today. And if you think that like planets in a line like this does something to your headaches, to your PTS, or to whatever the hell is wrong with you, good luck. Like, oh, look out, Saturn and Neptune are at opposition with the sun. Oh my gosh, oh no, it's a conjunction, it's an opposition, it's some nonsense with astrology that has nothing to do with science. So if somebody's claiming that they're a science communicator on YouTube and they're like talking about astrology, what? You're basing your crypto trades on like whether Mercury's in retrograde? If you are a loser and an idiot. Now that I got that out of my system, the ISWA, which we're not going to look at, is it reactivated? Can I access the site? Or has it been government shut down? Nope, it seems to still exist. Well, thank goodness that the Community Coordinated Modeling Center The Integrated Space Weather Analysis Center is still functional. Isn't that freaking wonderful? Oh my gosh, thank you, Donald Trump, for keeping it active. You're our hero. Pardon the sarcasm. What the hell is wrong with you people? Next is our real-time solar wind. If you're a sycophant, please unsubscribe from the channel. If you're a cultist, please exit the cult or seek psychological counseling. All right, so the current conditions are still a little bit elevated here, 519 kilometers a second for the solar wind velocity. Solar wind density only about 1.2 protons per cubic centimeter. The field is uninteresting as it's weak. 3 nanotesla with a BZ of +1. Who cares? Here's the proton flux, which is flatlined. Here is the X-ray flux, which is at background slightly higher levels than it was. So the background levels of X-ray flux are now at it's still about a B6. B6, B7, something like that. B5.5. No, it's higher, B7.2. So it's gone up a little bit since our last daily space weather video. You're welcome for the facts. All right, here is our magnetic sector view, our top view ecliptic plane field plot from the National Sunspot Observatory, and there is the North Pole oriented sector that we talked about in our last daily space weather video. If you haven't subscribed yet, you should probably press subscribe. Otherwise, you won't see the world's most comprehensive daily space weather content in your feed. You're welcome for that wise sage advice. I am a real fitness guru, not a phony fitness guru. If you want to know why, join the Discord channel. It's linked permanently in the description to this very video. And if not, you can find it, guess where? In our community posts. So here is our line of sight coronal hole plot. As you can see, we've got North Pole oriented coronal holes that are going to provide a high speed wind in something like 48 hours. You'll see an increase in the solar wind density. And then you'll see the solar wind density drop off as the speed rises. That is the standard signature of a coronal hole high-speed stream. So these coronal holes right here, the field lines are pointing toward you, not toward the sun as they are with South Pole-oriented coronal holes. There they are. High-speed wind coming in about 2 days to planet Earth. It could cause some geomagnetic unrest, or hopefully there'll be a strong field, and it will be accompanied by mid-latitude aurorae. Fingers crossed for that. Here is our Cerro Tololo magnetogram located in the Atacama Desert of Cerro Tololo, Chile. And yeah, things are very calm there. Those are not particularly active sunspots, but if we are going to see a large flare, it's going to either come from here or from this limb. So either the northeast or the northwest. This is the northeast, by the way. This is where sunspots rise. That's the east limb of the sun. Here's the west limb of the sun. That's where sunspots set. Moving right along to our red light view. Also from Cerro Tololo, Chile. That is not a very interesting sunspot, but this one is slightly more interesting than this setting group. So I would say this one is still slightly more likely to produce large flares than this group, which the flare potential there goes up about 4% as it sets on the western limb. Next, hydrogen alpha, which shows filaments. And we did name this filament here that was just in front of this sunspot group. That's the Scott McIntosh filament, and it looks like it is still intact quite entirely. Let's just go back a little bit more just to make sure it didn't eject. Wouldn't want to give Scott McIntosh the wrong data. He's a real scientist. Unlike armchair idiots that cover space weather on YouTube. Oh, smack. What? All right, let's try this again. Cerro Tololo. There's yesterday plus today. That's December 18th and 19th. What the heck? Was that there before? Oh my gosh, I don't understand it. What is going on? Let's look at Udaipur, India. Just look at today. Okay, it's still there. What the heck? So there it is. It's very dense. It looks like it's getting unstable. This could become an Earth-directed solar storm. Let's hope it does. Moving right along to our countdown to the solstice. You are currently in, if you're in the Northern Hemisphere, the darkest 4 days of the year. Yes, the darkest 4 days are upon us, folks. So huddle up in your bunkers and fear things that are completely not scary as you freak out about nothing. The end is not near, but you're welcome to pretend like it is if you're inclined to such things for some reason. Maybe you're really susceptible to nonsense on the internet. Now that I got that out of my system, here is the countdown until the December solstice. What are you doing in the final 2 days of autumn? Electron storm continues. We've got a lot of electrons out there, a lot of free electrons between your GPS satellite and your handset, and they will cause GPS signal refraction and hence massive GPS errors. So that, by the way, this data set is measuring the F layer, which is somewhere in this area between about 100 and about 370 kilometers, depending on how puffed up it is by the daytime sun. At the nighttime, it kind of retracts and shrinks in size because day and night are different. And here's a quick snapshot of the ionosphere from the Australian Government Bureau of Meteorology. Here's the anomalygram. This depicts anomaly in megahertz from a 30-day median. Interesting. Let's take a look at that. We'll look at the last 6 hours here. So here's the raw megahertz. It's showing 1 hour per second, and it's the last 6 hours. So from about 6 to 12 universal time there on December 19th. Is there another anomaly down here in the southern Pacific Ocean? That would be weird. But right there does appear to be a second anomaly. Is the South Atlantic anomaly splitting in two with a massive distance of 30 degrees latitude between them? Maybe. The African anomaly looks a little bit more stable. But here's the anomalygram. That's anomaly in megahertz from a 30-day median. And as you can see, the African anomaly is still like kind of right here. It looks like it might be splitting too. Look at that. There are 2 spots. Here there are 2 spots. South Atlantic anomaly way down here and way up here. So that's interesting. We cover it daily on the channel since we monitor the actual variables of the actual things that all the fearmongers talk about and have nothing to back up their claims that it means doomsday. Anyway, what is next? I don't even remember. Oh, yes. The sunrise over that blue globe. How you like them apples? That is about as steep as that angle gets, folks. As we approach the solstice, that will begin to head back toward a straight horizontal line, which is what happens at the equinox. The equinox, just so you know, folks, that's when Earth's equator crosses the sun. Earth's axis, the sun's axis, the sun's equator, they're perpendicular. And anyway, that's why the lines are straight at the equinox. And the lines are as slanted as they get at the solstice. In other words, once the solstice comes here, the sun is coming back to the northern hemisphere. It's already getting brighter out. By the time solstice arrives. So when astronomic winter shows up, it's already getting sunnier. The reason that it keeps getting colder, by the way, you ever wonder why it keeps getting colder? From December, like into March sometimes, but December to February, it keeps getting colder. The reason is because the heat latency of water. The ocean water is really hugely responsible for Earth's climate. Anybody who lives on a peninsula or on an island will understand this, right? If the sea surface temperature suddenly changes right outside, it changes your temperature right next to that rapidly. Water has a really high latency of heat. This is why we fill our water tanks with it, because water retains heat. So you heat up the water, you leave it in your tank, and then you have hot water ready because water has very high heat latency. It's one of the many properties of water that make it an incredibly extraordinary chemical. Yes, H2O, dihydrogen oxide, is a chemical which is raining down on you from the skies. Now look, we have this low here that's rapidly flying across Lake Huron right now. So it's right on this little inlet here, Lake Huron. I'm sure that's got a great name, that inlet. What's it called? I want to know, folks. Let's consult a map, shall we? Now, of course, I would prefer a different provider for maps, but let's don't do that because this is the best map system probably ever built. It's splentacular. Oh, that's Superior. I'm sorry. Here's Huron. And that is called Saginaw Bay. Oh, that makes sense. Saginaw Bay. The low is like right here over Bay City. So keep in mind that low is entrained by dry massive air, as you can see on this map. Let's zoom out to the same size as the country. There you go. There's a map of the U.S. There's a water vapor animation of the U.S. So this is a low, but it's kind of weak because you can see it's all surrounded by dry air. Will it strengthen as it goes over Lake Michigan? Not really, because sea surface temperatures matter. And the sea surface temperatures of, Lake Huron are not exactly hot. So over here, they're kind of warm. Over here, they're kind of cold. They're very average. 41.6 degrees. That's not going to aid in convection very much. That low won't strengthen as it crosses the lake, although the winds will speed up. So we probably already have really high winds there. We have crazy winds actually in eastern PA right now. Look at the surface winds. They are absolutely berserk. And it's because everything is being sucked toward this subarctic low. So this low up here in eastern Canada is responsible. Thanks, Canada, for jacking up our weather again, making for very hot temperatures in places like the hot air capital of the world. Colorado is this low in Western Canada. So thanks for controlling the weather, Canada. What a bunch of hoofdies up there. Shout out to Mike Bordages. Shout out to Mike Bordages, who spouts nonsense about AI and tech and Tesla and all kinds of other crap on the internet and crypto. And it's okay, Mike. We know one day you'll get a clue. So again, this low is really controlling the weather. As you can see, look at the winds across, especially Ontario. Dude. "50-mile-per-hour winds on Lake Ontario. And over here, they're going due east, and over here, they're going due north. That is some bonkers weather, folks. Bonkers weather. And what's it caused by? Pressure gradients. Okay, look, there's the pressure map. All right? If you think chemtrails are a thing, here's an idea for you. Learn how aircraft and weather works. If you understand what dew point is, you will not blame mankind for intentionally putting up persistent contrails. That is not a thing. In fact, airlines actively avoid creating persistent contrails. They change altitude and flight path a little bit to avoid creating persistent contrails. They don't do it on purpose. They do the opposite of that because chemtrails are not a thing. Now that I got that out of my system, next, more weather stuff. Here's a US Doppler radar map, for which you're welcome. Radar.weather.gov is where you can find it yourself. I mean, it works great for North America, most of it. And as you can see, we've got some heavy weather, especially in the Northeast. So there you go. I mean, we got heavy rains, and then this shit doesn't load because there's probably no bandwidth, because nobody monitors anything, because all government websites are broken, because they funded, and who cares about science, because let's just defund everything regardless of whether it's legitimate science or not. Maybe my internet connection slowed down, but it's Verizon Fios. It's got like 400 meg upload and download speeds. Anyway, there's the Doppler radar for the Northeast. Let's come back to this map and zoom in on the Northeast. Boom, there you go. There's the water vapor map. And as you can see, massive air is going to push all of this moisture out of here rapidly. So if you want to see it dry out, it's going to happen quick. And the temperatures aren't really going to drop that much because guess what? There's a flow coming from the south, as you can clearly see on this map. There will be a little bit of lake effect snow as well associated with that dry mass of air pushing through. As the Great Lakes accelerate the winds, which we showed you earlier. Let's take a look at the world's largest waves while we're on windy.com. Dude, some dangerous freaking... See, look at this. This is bonkers. Look at the seas here south of Greenland. 29 footers. 30 footers. That is more wave than I would prefer to be on. And I come from a line of Vikings and Scotsmen. Like, I'm very comfortable on the high seas. But when they're 30-foot seas, I'd rather sit that one out. So those are the stormiest freaking places in the world. This is the best place to not be rowing a Viking longboat across the North Sea. That is a bad time. Although some people may find it fun. 30-footers are pretty scary. It might snap a giant frigate right in half. Probably not a frigate. But yeah, like certain boats will definitely just snap in half and sink in about 4 seconds because of waves that big. Again, it's all caused by the pressure. This low just chilling here in between Greenland and Iceland is indeed deadly, while an anticyclone sits here off the coast of Newfoundland. We're just going to show a jet stream forecast here. Here's a 72-hour jet stream forecast. Warm temperatures moving across the country here. Are you dreaming of a green Christmas like the one you're likely to see? Anyway, we're closing out this video. This video is done. Let us know in the comments if you'd like us to create what? Yeah, I can tell you why I dislike Ben Davidson. Ben Davidson is a fraud, a grifter, and a cult leader. I don't like any of those things. Fraud, the misrepresentation, the intentional misrepresentation of material facts. Ben knows that he is wrong about cosmology. He knows that the mechanism that he claims is going to cause Earth's axis to shift 90 degrees makes no sense. And Ben knows that there's nothing in the geologic record to back up a 90-degree shift of Earth's axis. That's not a thing. The reason everybody's so offended by that is because it's too stupid to comment on. No geologist in the world backs this up. And if it was the case that every 12,000 years Earth's axis shifts 90 degrees overnight, it would be present in the geologic records of all sedimentary strata in the world. So where is the sedimentary strata? Plus, Ben is a toxic asshole that rips people off and sells them shitty, marked up real estate in Colorado. He also leads a cult. What's the definition of a cult? Believes nonsense, has a living leader, and is harmful. You think propagating bullshit about space weather and cosmology is a fucking problem on the internet? You think YouTube essentially paying Ben a fucking salary to lie to people about space weather, astronomy, cosmology, geophysics, weather, and climate? You think that's fucking cool? It's not cool. It fucking pisses me off. And I have idiots commenting most days saying, you got to watch Suspicious Observers to get the real information about space weather. Do I? We created this channel because Ben Davidson is a hack fraud who sucks at his job. He also wants to box Stefan Burns, which I would definitely pay for tickets to that, to watch those two idiots slap fight each other and pretend like they're fucking athletes. Like, if I smack those dudes' heads together, a neutron star would form in the center of that, and I would have to jump back from getting sucked in. Oh my gosh. Ben Davidson is not an athlete, not a relationship advisor. He's an empty husk of a human. Tell Ben we said hi and that I'm going to buy some red couches. The next time I buy couches, I'm buying some red ones just so I can sit on them while making fun of Ben Davidson. The galactic current sheet is not a thing. It is a fictional cosmologic structure that doesn't exist. The local interstellar environment is filamentary. So, like, when people are this science illiterate, you can't debate them on the science. There's no science to debate. I almost majored in cosmology, but I didn't because mankind does not fully understand heliophysics. If we did, we would be able to explain the mechanisms that underlie the solar sunspot cycles. We would be able to forecast using the data that we have on the sun to forecast what the next solar cycle will be like. We don't have that ability, which is why we don't know how the sun works, at least not intricately. We don't understand the mechanisms that drive the sunspot cycles. Is it just because there's like condensed matter flowing around like liquid at the photosphere layer? Maybe. That might explain all of cosmology. But the point is, the problem with cosmology is that it's all based on heliophysics. Okay? So if we knew how the sun actually works, then we could make all these estimations of how Betelgeuse works and how Cygnus X3, the high mass X-ray binary, that some people think is a quark star, some people think is a neutron star, some people think is a black hole, some people think is a white dwarf orbiting a more massive object. Like, there's all kinds of problems with cosmology, and it's because it's all based on physics. The reason that cosmologists know what is going on inside of distant stars is because people think they know what's going on inside the sun. The only problem is that we can't observe it. So let me say that again. We can't observe what's going on inside the sun. Helioseismology is the most intrusive thing that we're able to do, which is detecting ripples where we can see flares from the opposite side of the sun and see CMEs from the opposite side of the sun without seeing them because they cause the plasma on the whole surface of the sun to ripple. It's called helioseismology. It's very important. It's one of the more modern aspects of heliophysics, okay? Beyond that, we cannot see below the photosphere, okay? Helioseismology only allows us to detect sunspots and like flares and stuff on the opposite side of the sun from this side of the sun by looking at the waveforms that happen, okay? That's helioseismology. We cannot see below the photosphere. So when you see a big old sunspot and it's all black, it's really black. there could be somebody standing right underneath there, under a force field, waving to you, shining a laser beam at you, and you wouldn't be able to see it because the magnetic field above them is far too strong for our instruments to penetrate. If you could get to the sun without burning up, you'd probably be able to just stick things right into it. Just stab stuff into the sun. The problem is we need a little bit more heat resistant stuff than we currently have. Okay, the Parker Solar Probe's got a pretty good heat shield. You know, the fastest object ever built. Hold on, what is this comment? Let me just read this comment here briefly. And thanks for asking, part-time friend. Are you a fair weather friend? Cheers. Last time I heard about him, he was talking about the recent aurora in Florida. And he's like, we were a few minutes away from Armageddon, but thankfully it calmed down. Yeah. Aurora in places like South Korea and like in Cuba during the Carrington event, like these low latitude aurora, they happen all the time because the Earth's magnetic field is not just homogeneous. It doesn't just like emanate from the poles. There are places where there are like little strong field lines over here, little strong field lines over here. It's not just a homogeneous thing because the magnetic field, it has to propagate like from the inner and outer core. And as it does that, the substrate in between, you know, the giant mantle and the mantle crust boundary and the plasticky layer in between the mantle and the crust and like when magnetism has to go through a thing, if it's not a magnetic insulator, then that thing affects the magnetic field. It can amplify the field, it can attenuate the field. It's not fully understood how the field is generated. Like, it seems to have some combination between mantle plumes and like low velocity zones and the inner and outer core interaction, maybe. Like, it's pretty weird. It's not like we can just drill down there and check, you know? The deepest drill hole was like, what, 17 kilometers or something like that, the Kola Deep borehole. And it was very interesting, you know? The Soviets thought they'd find a lot of heavy metals down there. And guess what they found a lot of? Hydrogen. Yeah, they found an inexplicably large amount of hydrogen. Inexplicably large amount, I should say. And like, that was weird, you know? People were like, what the heck? Why is there so much hydrogen? Why is there so much hydrogen? Is there a star inside the Earth? Like, weirder theories have come out, folks. Here's a weird theory for you. Thank you. I pressed the wrong button there. That's correct. We know the magnetic fields are moving. Just saw the recent data. The magnetic fields are always moving. The amount that the magnetic fields have currently weakened on planet Earth is not sufficient to be considered a magnetic excursion. It's not even a blip on the geologic radar. The field isn't that weak. So like all this nonsense about low latitude aurorae signaling that, oh, the field's going to shut down. No, cosmic ray flux would be high. But it isn't. We know for a fact, because we can compare carbon-14 to carbon-12 ratios to determine how many isotopes are in things like wood. And we know that cosmic ray flux gets really, really high when there's a real polar excursion or like during a pole flip. Cosmic ray flux is at a 20-year low. You know what I mean? When the data doesn't back your hypothesis, abandon the fucking hypothesis. That's what science is. It's the weakness. Look, the weakness and the speed must be related, right? Because how is the field generated? From liquid magma. That's the like sort of accepted theory among geologists. And it certainly looks like the low velocity zones have an effect on the field, because we see one thing change, we see the other thing change. We see the inner core rotation change, but still, we don't know the variables that drive the magnetic field itself. So, yeah, if the poles move to a certain place, that might mean that it's going to get weaker and weaker as a proportion of the movement of the field. But the movement itself isn't the same. The location of the pole isn't the same data as the strength of the field. The field is measured in nanotesla. The location of the pole is a geographic location. Like, this is why you can't argue with or debate with Ben Davidson, because he's too much of a science illiterate to debate. He doesn't know anything. The same way as you don't debate a literally illiterate person, right? If you meet a guy who was raised by wolves and doesn't fucking know English, do you debate that guy? That's the equivalent of debating Ben on science. He doesn't fucking know any of the science. He claims that he's not electric universe, except all of his theories are exactly consistent with the electric universe. It's like the electric universe cultists know more about their long debunked science than Ben does about his long debunked science. The whole thing is so pathetic. Dude, how is Earth's axis going to shift 90 degrees overnight? How? What's the mechanism? The sun's going to spookily go boom because the galaxy's got a spooky wavy current sheet that, look, the sun's magnetic field is internally generated. Earth's magnetic field is internally generated. Like, what the hell? What? The micronova? That's not a thing. A micronova is a real science term that refers to white dwarfs, which are extremely hot, bright, violent, volatile stars. They do a certain kind of nova called a micronova. There's a real science paper published in a real science journal that uses the term. I love that they did that, because now every time Ben Davidson says micronova, somebody can say, the sun's not a white dwarf, idiot. Why don't you read anything about the science that you think you know how to debunk? There is no theory that you can debunk without knowing the theory in the first place. How are you going to debunk a thing if you don't know what you're debunking? This crystal ball has a flat spot on the top. Let's say that's the Earth's North Pole. How the fuck is it going to shift 90 degrees in a day? How? How is it going to shift back 90 degrees? Like, what? This is not a thing. Like, plenty of actual science people have been fooled by Ben Davidson. And it's partially because people are so specialized now that, like, an organic chemist doesn't know anything about cosmology. You know? What do you expect? It takes years to learn a really specific part of science to, like, make a really important breakthrough. Oh my gosh. I just hate it. And, like, it's not science over there. Having a theory that makes no sense and no plausible physics to back it up, and then searching through all the data in the universe to try to find, like, one piece of data to back it up, That's not science. It's done the opposite way. We come up with a plausible theory that could have physics to explain it, and then we try to debunk our own theory. That's what real scientists do. What Ben Davidson does is rip you off by fucking lying to you, looking confident, and telling people that he wants to fight Stefan Burns. Like, Ben Davidson is not an athlete. He thinks because he lifts weights that he's tough, which is really cute, Ben. Really cute. I know you're from Pittsburgh. You think you're a gangsta. It's adorable. It's adorable, Ben. My gosh. You can't make this shit up. The Babylon Bee could not write a story more ridiculous than Observer Ranch. Dude, if you're prepping for doomsday, what's the first rule of prepping? I said earlier, the first rule of Batman is don't fucking tell people on the internet that you're Batman. The first rule of prepping is have a fallback location, not a public like what? Here's where all of our preps are, everybody. Come camp with us at Observer Ranch, where we'll fill your head with a bunch of nonsense about astronomy, cosmology, geophysics, climate. Like, I mean, the amount of debunking that can be done with no additional research is just, it's a gold mine. It's a gold mine. We need more reaction videos on Ben's live streams. Like, I wish I had the time to like stream live while Ben is streaming live, so I can have it in his real time. You know, this way you can have two screens. One, me making fun of shit that he just said, and the other one, him talking out his ass. And you'd be better off listening to most asses because they're less full of shit than Ben Davidson. You brought it up. Anyway, this stream is over. It's under an hour, so I guess that's good. Dude, the are moving all the time, okay? There's always a pole shift going on because the mantle plumes that are believed to play a role in where the poles are located in refracting those magnetic field lines that I was talking about earlier. There's thousands of kilometers. As those magma plumes move around, the magnetic field moves around. It doesn't spell doomsday. So the fields could start strengthening or moving back toward the geographic poles at any point. The current pole shift that's going on is not dangerous in any way. The field is not particularly weak from a geologic perspective, which is all that matters, since we can look at how strong the field used to be and how strong it is now, and it's not that weak. Low latitude aurorae have been observed for hundreds of years. It's just that people didn't have smartphones, people didn't have cameras, people didn't know about space weather, people didn't know that the aurora was there. There's a 24-hour news cycle. There's idiots on YouTube claiming that the aurora is scary or dangerous in any way. Space is not dangerous. Next. All right, yeah, this is over. There's your current data on the closest star, the most interesting one to gaze at. This thing is not going to kill you. It's the source of all life and energy on Earth, pretty much. So, yeah. Not dangerous. It's great for growing plants, getting a suntan, causing your body to make vitamin D, causing winds, causing weather. Please don't be scared of the sun, folks. Look, we love the sun so much on the channel that we put it on a cycling jersey. Would you like one? Well, you can't get one, but you'll be able to get one soon because the 2026 jerseys are coming soon. So hit the links in the description, hit the social media, go to the homepage, find where we are on the shitter, which is what Twitter is. New TOS on Twitter, by the way. New TOS. I don't know if they elaborate further on how much they're going to censor you, but wow, what a fraud. Elon Musk, a free speech advocate. Hey, Elon, if you're watching, I've got one reason why you're not a free speech advocate. You ban people's accounts for free speech on Twitter. What a piece of shit. Anyway, time to close this thing out. Best of luck with everything. Enjoy the darkest 4 days of the year. I've been your host, Dan, aka Smash O Mash, signing off. I'm going to be a future cartoon villain, by the way. And until next time, may that solar wind be at your back.